So what are we podding about today, Riley? I think we've got some hot topics because I was hanging up my college degree yesterday, which sparked a conversation, but we'll get there eventually. So productivity for you, how do you stay productive? Like, what is your main motivator? What keeps you on track? Like, let's hear it.
So I have pretty bad OCD and like
I think every entrepreneur needs to have
yeah.
some.
So it's like definitely like, I mean, everyone has a little bit of that, I think, especially in the entrepreneur space. But I think a lot of times it can be a weakness, but I like channel it to do things in the most productive, efficient way. So like, for example, this isn't really work related, but it does apply to work. So like if I'm at home, like cleaning, doing chores, I'm like doing the dishes, then I think about the trash. I go do the trash. Like I'm like, it's hectic, but I'm like doing it all at once.
Right.
So like when I'm working, I'm like, all right, I gotta post. I'm like, all right, I gotta edit. And I kind of do everything at once simultaneously. Not at the same time, but like,
yeah, things are still getting done, but is it the most efficient way? Probably not, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, from a time aspect, yes.
How often do you forget things in that process?
All the time. I forget things a lot.
Riley might need to be medicated. Yeah. Just kidding.
I forget things a lot, but I also have been, I've been getting used to note systems and sticky notes. And
do you think this is the way that let's just use your generation, that brain works because of these things?
Yeah, no, that's why I have.
Do you think that's why that attention span is shortened? I mean, I am very similar to you in a sense that I bounce around to doing things. Like if I'm locked into like A, B, C, like in a process, then it gets so mundane that like I can't function. Like I get bogged down with like getting stuck in a task. It's like taking a test with 50 questions and like you get stuck on one. I feel like older generations get used to, okay, I have to finish this problem until I move on to the next, where my generation is even more so yours is like pivoting all the time and like jumping around, but they're still as productive as that other person, and a perfect example of this is I just got back from my CCIM test, which 3 of 4 passed, which is great, by the way, because the test is freaking hard. But 2 of the individuals said that they ran out of time because they got stuck on questions and they didn't adjust and move to the next one until they finished that question and they ran out of time. So the last 5 questions they had to just pick because they were out of time. Whereas there was a gentleman that was a little bit younger, mid-30s taking the test, and he pivoted around. So it's just kind of an interesting example that applies to this. And I'm glad you brought this up because it's interesting.
In tests at school and whatnot, I never came back to the question because I knew if I didn't do it right then, I would forget about it. And
so on a test, you take things differently, right?
A little bit, yeah.
So you're saying you have to finish it until you move on.
And I never got to a problem where I was like, Like I was always pretty good at school.
Thinks he's really smart.
I was always pretty good at school and applying things, and like tests where I never had test anxiety because I didn't put the pressure on myself.
It's because you studied, huh?
No, I didn't study. I don't know.
Riley's smart. He's so smart. He should have gone to college. I'm just warming him up for our conversation later. I can throw darts at his chest.
But no, I mean, these things are definitely the reason why my brain works like that. And I was thinking about something when you were saying that. I totally forgot. But I think you just have to use it.
It's because you didn't go to college.
Yeah, it's because my brain was working and doing something else.
I'm roasting you today.
I'm just waiting for it. I can take it. But yeah, it's
all in good fun.
Productivity is. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Time blocking. I can't time block. I've tried it, and if I set aside an hour to do emails or something like that, I do 3 emails and then my brain's going somewhere else.
Right.
So what I do to help me is a task. So I have to-do lists and time. It doesn't matter on the time.
Right.
So maybe that might be more inefficient.
Do your task lists, are they like daily, weekly, monthly, or is it just like a running total?
Daily.
Okay.
So if I'm working at home, I get out a note card and I literally write these tasks.
And
they're not in order or anything.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, that's the easiest one. I'll start with that. And I'll go down the list. So it's like edit podcast, edit Instagram content. I just do one of those, finish that task, and then I'll take a 5-10 minute break or whatever and then pivot. But I'm never like, for 30 minutes, I'm doing this, because it's just, my brain doesn't work like that.
I like that. And for those of you listening to the podcast, I think that the key to what Riley's saying today is, I get sometimes inundated with a task list that I started, let's say a year ago, that has like 500 things to do on it. And I sometimes get overwhelmed by that, where is what Riley's saying is really focusing that down. It's okay to have a task list that is like you're running to do, but I think it's really important to take like those tasks and compress them into like not necessarily a yearly goal or a monthly goal, but just like daily. And I know that identifying like the top 3 to 5 most important things that you have to get done in the day can be really efficient to get those done, right? Like, do you feel like you're more productive when you do identify like, okay, if I just narrow it down to like 3 to 5 things I have to do today, then you can accomplish the day, whether it's, okay, I have to get a workout in today. If you don't do it in the morning, do it in the afternoon, or you got to edit this or do emails for an hour or get back to certain people. I think it's really important that productivity is like organized that way.
Yeah. Luckily I don't have like emails like you do, like out the wazoo, or else I would just be like totally distracted.
Dude, it's so hard. But I love email though. It's weird. Like I listened to a podcast with Mark Cuban recently, and he live and dies in his email. Like he doesn't talk on the phone.
Yeah.
Email.
I hate talking on the phone. I'd much rather be in an email. Like I've had a couple clients that I've worked with over the years, and it's just always a phone call randomly, and I'm just like, this is the last thing that
and your mind's not in the space to like say negotiate a price or talk about a deal. It's like,
and after I answer the phone, I'm like, all right, sure, whatever. And it depends on the client, if I like talking to them, if they're friendly, or like whatever
fun shit going on in their lives.
Yeah, but no, I'm very, so I have like, I would say I have a running to-do list, but then I pull from that daily to like get things done to be most efficient. So I have like things that I need to get done.
Where do you organize your lists?
So like the running one is usually on my phone, and then the dailies are usually written out on a physical piece of paper.
I like that. I think that that's a good way to transition them into the real world and make them happen. Yeah. Because if you write them down that day, it's top of mind.
Yeah, and I literally like cross them off, so it's very like physical in my hand. I'm seeing the tasks get done, which in turn motivate me to keep doing more of the tasks.
I like that, because if you leave everything digitally on your phone, I feel like it just gets lost in the shuffle of like just sitting here. I have like 7 notifications that surface on my phone. I would never be able to get anything done.
Out of sight, out of mind, in my opinion. Like if I'm not, like, because the notes are there, I have like a widget that's like front and center, but I'm like, I read to do, and I'm like,
I'm going to get Riley some really cool note cards for Christmas this year.
It's a great idea.
I like that.
No, I literally write it down on a note card, and then like when I'm stressed out about, or not stressed out, or maybe I'm feeling
just overwhelmed
about something, I literally just write everything down, whether that's to-do list, whether that's finances, whether that's plans, goals, just stuff like that. Like,
get it out on paper.
Sometimes if I have like a bogged day the next day, before I go to bed, I'll write down everything I need to do so that I can just take it out of my brain and like go to sleep.
I like that.
Because like that a lot. It feels like a physical weight.
I used to keep a notepad next to my bed stand in case I like thought of anything, until I had kids, and then they just take it and color on it and color all over the walls. So that went out the fan pretty quick.
I feel like if I did that, I would be doing that too often. Like I would like encourage myself to be like midnight and be like,
think of an idea, Riley.
There are nights where I do pick up my phone and write some things down, but I don't really have ideas that come to me like that, like at night when I'm like in bed a ton, because like I said, I try to get everything out of my head before.
Right.
Just so I avoid
You're like
that.
Decompressing, turn the phone off, bang your girlfriend, one of those things, He's going to love that comment.
Do it.
Inbox Zero. I know I've talked about this on the podcast. I know you're not an email guy, but it's something that I do, that I'm really trying to get better at it, because it's something that I've realized there's so many tools when it comes to email. The benefit of email that I think you like as well, but don't have the capability to use it yet because you're not getting a bajillion emails a day, is it just keeps track of communication and conversation. So even when I do have a phone call, let's say with a client or a customer for that matter, I always try and email them like a summary of the call quickly and efficiently, like 3 bullet points, just so we can remember if we pick back up in a couple of weeks, what we talked about, and it's all documented in a folder, or like in a conversation in a folder, and it just makes my life 10 times easier when I get the call and they're like, hey, I just wanted to check in on this LOI that you sent, and I can click on the past conversation. It's all communication there, so I can quickly remind myself what the hell we were talking about last time. But inbox zero is I try and organize my email systems to be at 0 at the end of the day. So I've got 2 folders. There's like a priority and like an other that Outlook automatically organizes my email into. Like the other one, I don't get cleared out every single day, but it's like spam. It's like, oh, this gift or Nike or like all these like junk emails that you kind of get. But in the main inbox, there's great features to tagging and organizing your mail so they stay systematized to whereas if you ever need to go get them, they're there. So when I say inbox zero, I'm trying to get to the 0 inbox before I go to bed, whether that's responding to the client. I've gotten used to, if I don't have time to respond to an email that day and I know that it can wait a day or 2 before I get back to it, or it's going to take a couple hours of thought or reviewing a lease or things like that that are a little bit more dense, I'll do the snooze feature to the next day. So I still consider that inbox zero because I'm at least clearing that for the day and then I'm moving to it the next day. The benefit of this is where I get work done on the weekends, is I don't snooze Friday to Monday. I snooze it Friday to Saturday morning. So when I wake up Saturday morning, have a cup of coffee, and I know I need an hour to like review an email, that's when I get some of that stuff done.
Yeah.
But that's inbox zero for you.
I love that.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I love that. To touch on a few things, there are like some emails that I'll get that I'm like, all right, I need a solid like 30 minutes to just like embrace this email. So I'm like, I star them and I leave them unread because I just don't know how to work like Gmail to that like snooze feature if they have one or if they don't or if it's custom or whatever. I just don't know how to do that. So I just like star it, leave it unread. But then, like, my OCD, I'm like, why do I have a notification? I keep going in. It's the same email. But,
I do the same thing.
I'm like, this is stupid. There's probably a
I
better
really
system.
like Google versus Outlook for an inbox zero methodology.
Really?
Because there's some features in there that I used to use before I switched back to Outlook. Like I moved all my real estate servers back to Outlook because of the communication factor with other customers in the syndication of Google or Word docs and Excel docs on your phone, and the ease of use of sending those documents via Outlook versus Google. But Google was a much smoother system. They had better AI.
Yeah. That's the problem is like everyone uses Word, but I think Google's better. So
I know. It's like, when will the world... I don't know. I wish Apple would integrate their own type of forms. They have pages and numbers, but I just don't like... Have you ever used those?
The Google Forms?
Yeah. No, pages and numbers is like Apple's form of... Yeah.
Ever.
I watched one YouTube video one time, and this is a little tangent, but on numbers, and this numbers is 10 times smarter than Excel when it comes to formulas and shit like that, but just nobody is taught, like, they don't have an Apple numbers class at Boise State.
Yeah.
They've got
Excel.
Excel 101.
Yeah. And then one other thing on that, I learned the hard way was sending a follow-up email after phone calls.
Oh, you learned the hard way on that.
Well, yeah. Yes, I learned the hard way. And I was like, you know what? There was a lot of information in that phone call that, busy individuals just forget. And then when it comes down to like incorrect payment.
A month later. Guess what? I learned that in college to follow up.
All right, Blake, you can go with it.
Oh,
it's time.
I am a huge proponent of going to college.
I think you just say that because
I have it.
You work with me every day.
Yeah.
Like if I went to college, like you would never talk about it, which is good. You got the Louboutins on today?
Oh yeah, a little red bottom action.
What
does it say on the side, Riley?
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Yeah. Helps remind me that sometimes.
What's a mile? College?
No, it's you just don't know what other people's lives are like.
True.
It may look great on the outside, but what are they dealing with internally? I mean, not to get into the mental health discussion because I think a good majority of that is bogus in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like get up, work out,
Yeah.
don't take fucking drugs that the government wants to give to you,
Yep.
and figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
you can't solve every problem that you have in your life, but there's ways to navigate them without having to say, oh, poor me. I don't know. I'm just talking from my own personal experience.
I agree.
I don't know.
With experiencing some things personally and just like with people that I know closely, like I understand some of it's like just how you're wired or, hereditary or whatever, but there's a lot of steps that you can take to change that.
Right.
Vitamin D, exercise. I mean, all of that plays a huge part into like just happiness.
I know. It's interesting, and I think to a point happiness comes from a financial situation.
For sure.
But at some point past that financial number for that individual, it changes. You've got to create your own happiness.
Well, that gives you the security to take the stress away, and then it's like, all right, how do I become happier?
Right.
Without the financial part.
Bingo.
That's a big part of it. And then people get stuck in the cycle of, I don't have any money, woe is me, and it's like it's really negative, and it just like is a cycle.
It could be a spiral, and I could see that.
But that's why you go to college and get a degree, right?
Exactly.
So you always.
I don't think college degrees help you necessarily get a job in the workforce today. My college experience, to give you guys an understanding of my situation a little bit deeper, my grandfather was a professor for 10 years at Boise State, so he was a huge proponent of college. Now, and this is the topic, and this is why I'm very pro college to an extent, is I had my whole college paid for, transparently, and so that changes my perspective a little bit on it. Because I think that there's value in college. Did I take, everything away from it? And did I maximize my efficiencies in college? Maybe not, But if I was paying for it myself, potentially I would have paid a little bit more attention in regards to like absorbing some of the information and data. But I can't tell you how many times that on a weekly basis that I'll reference a thought I had in college in a class, like working through a problem, whether it's don't be late for a meeting or like something really detailed in one of like my marketing classes or my finance classes of like, oh, remember when that professor said this? And it just sticks in my head that it's just kind of interesting,
Yeah.
It's like that paid mentorship, but at the same time, go to college, people.
I'll also be very transparent. My grandfather offered to pay my whole way through college.
This is great.
Like he offered to give me, so just quick, I won't make it a side tangent, but when all of his grandkids were born, he put 10 grand into his own like mutual fund. Like he created it pretty much with 10 different stocks.
Right.
Whatever. So whatever that gets to by the time you're 18, he gives that to us for whatever we want. So it's not in his college account. It's just a regular.
It's just a investment account, basically.
So then like we get that when we graduate high school. So I got that. And then he was like, well, you can take that. And I also want to pay for your college if you're not going to use that for college. And I was like, there was something in me that was just like, I really believe in like instinct and like believing yourself because I don't know. Because if I were to go to college, I think at the end of the day, I would be like, I think I'm here because everyone else wants me to be here. And I'm just, the way my brain works,
right?
I just don't know if I would have like physically been able to do it in that environment. Also the environment, being around, even just in high school at a smaller scale, when you're like, when I choose not to go to college, I have to have a plan other than college.
Right.
So I'm very focused on that, very focused at being the
best. I think
best.
that's what a lot of parents want for their kids is to go to college just because it's like the dedicated plan that it's an easy send off.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're done with high school, go to college.
Yeah. So it's like, that's the thing. I agree in going to college if you have no plan. Like if you have no plan on what you want to do, sure, like go to college. If that's going to make things a little bit less stressful and whatever. I had a plan from like freshman year and I was doing it and it was working and I was like, I want to do that. So
right.
I did it and I just,
this is really interesting because I didn't know that was part of your situation is like, I think there's two hurdles going to college. One is like, how can you afford it? Mm-hmm. And that's a big reason why a lot of people don't go to college. But then the other point that you touched on is having a plan. Like when I was 18, I was a big athlete growing up. So it was like, oh, I'm going to be in athletics in college. And that was like the focus. But then I decided not to. And so for that 4 years of transition, it was huge for me to figure out how I can dominate in a business setting because I wanted to be in business. Actually, I wanted to be a cop for like a semester and a half. And then I was like, oh, they only make 40, 50 grand a year. Definitely don't want to be a cop.
I love that.
And then I started to realize that, in college, it's kind of your time to evaluate what you truly want to do.
Yeah.
And not saying that whatever your degree is, you have to stay in that field, but there's just like those subtle things that I know we've talked about that you learn in college. Like for me, it was big, like showing up to class. Like you can get decent grades in college just by showing up. Like it's,
for sure.
That's one thing that I think I take away from college, even though it's stupid. Like when you're finally out of the house and you have to make adult responsibilities, like, do I go to my 6 p.m. class or do I go play like men's league hockey or go drinking with my buddies or whatever it is? It's like you have to make those decisions, and those relay into someone's real world career life that like you had those instincts and you had those habits and you learned those elsewhere versus in college.
Yeah. And which is weird because I have no idea where I got any of this mindset or like the way of thinking because
YouTube?
I mean, maybe, I think
Casey
it was just
Neistat?
like, I think it was just like, I had a goal and I was like, this is what I need to get to that goal. And, environment was a big thing. So in high school at a small scale, I could feel like what am I trying to say?
Because you were really independent your like junior, senior year. Because I knew you the end of your junior year, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think even before that. But like I walk into a class and everyone's just like, just bummed, and everyone's just like hates to be here. And granted, I hated to be there too, but I'm like, I got to do it. I'll do it. I was just always optimistic and positive, but that environment is really important because I look at like Bree's classes and what she's doing, and like I'm proud of her. She's like go getter, great student. She got like the highest whatever.
She's gonna like graduate with like 7 different cords around her neck, like swagged out. Get her a chain too.
Yeah. But I hear in these classes like the teachers talking and the kids collaborating, and it's very just like, I just feel like there's a lack of like thinking for yourself at some extent, because even Bree sometimes asks me things and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, just do what you think. Like,
yeah. What do you think is the right answer?
Yeah. And I'm a very strong believer in like, if you need to do something and this is what needs to happen, but this is what you've told needs to happen, like you just need to do what needs to happen. Like,
right.
What is it? Ask for forgiveness instead of permission kind of thing.
Yeah.
And not necessarily in like bad ways, but like if I was like, oh, I don't know if I can, do this and not go to college, like then I would never have been here.
Right.
Like questioning that stuff. And I moved out of my house, of my parents' house.
Day you graduated high school?
No, it was the fall after I graduated.
Yeah.
Granted, I was, with Bree. If I was single, I'd probably still be living there just because that's how my mindset works.
Yeah.
I'm like, stack all the cash. But
Gary V.
yeah, so that also pushed me. I had no stable income. Obviously, I was doing Hanson Media, but it was like this month I could make $28,
Yeah.
And I always had a sense of discipline and responsibility there that I think a lot of kids learn in college.
Right.
And like I said, I have no idea where I got that. I'm kind of grateful that it's there. I mean, I think I was definitely raised in that way,
right?
But it was transferred from a non-entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting to have you sprout from, like, kind of looking at your parents' careers where they're like in the medical field,
yeah.
And it's like college degree, and then you work there for 40 years of your life,
Yep.
And then where did Riley come from?
And what's funny? So my grandpa went to trade school, so he didn't even go to college. Went to trade school, electrician. Entrepreneur back in the he probably would have been 70s, 80s, buying real estate, flipping mobile home parks, built some duplexes, then moved into commercial, then the stock market when he was like 50 something, 60 something almost. And so it's like, and he was the biggest advocate of going to college.
Right.
Because he had all the success from no college. So I was always like,
so it was backwards.
I was always like, why are you telling me that? Because also I think the career path that I'm in is very foreign to like grandparents and even
yes,
parents.
very foreign.
Like, so he's like, so you want to go make movies in Hollywood? I'm like, no,
no. Like,
so that was very hard to like translate to them of like
what
my
this
plan
could do.
That's why I never really talk to people about my plan that aren't one in the industry or that I'm working with, because they
don't understand
it's
it.
not really worth like my time to try to explain. I'm like, just give me 5 years and I'll just show you.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I would rather do. So when I started in high school, I just kind of put my head down and blocked out the noise and was just doing it. I'm just very driven. I'm just like a horse on a treadmill with a carrot in front of me.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So that's also why I didn't want to go to college, because I just wanted to get to work. Like, I felt like I would be wasting some time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not in a rush to get anywhere, but I love to be efficient and I love to take all of the opportunity.
Well, and it's the fulfillment of completing something too.
Yeah.
I think that, that's where it comes that you have been able to develop that internally from like one of your habits, that like you do reward yourself for accomplishing certain tasks. Because that's one thing for me going to college, like it was always chasing the expensive piece of paper, they call it. But the feeling of like, okay, I did grind through something for 4 years.
Yeah.
That I'm able to walk away from it. And that was a huge thing that helped me like accomplish my CCIM stuff too. Cause that was another like 2-3 year grind with a huge test at the end. And looking back on it, like, I don't think I would have done it because of the mental space I'm in now.
Yeah.
Like I always had the goals, like college, okay, get your real estate license, get your CCIM, get your broker's license. And then that's kind of it from an educational.
Yeah.
I mean, you always want to re-up on some stuff
For sure.
just to stay on top of mind. But like now that I've accomplished everything that I've set out to do by 30, it's like, what's next?
Yeah.
But college was kind of like the building blocks of that. And did I waste 4 years or 5 years of my life not doing college or not? This podcast really transitioned because I was going to bag on you the whole time. And then like, I'm actually intrigued with what you're saying.
I know. I was expecting some more flames from you, but I just thought of this analogy.
I didn't know how close our stories were, but like
Yeah.
different decisions. Like
Yep.
you just been like internalized. You're like, just wait, Blake. I'm gonna like blow your brains out on this pod.
Yeah, because I just have always held myself to high standards in a healthy way, right? So you can hold yourself to high expectations and never meet them, and you're just depressed because of it. But I'm just like, I expect a lot out of myself, and I expect myself to do that just from like a confidence standpoint. Like, I don't know. So, but I'll use this analogy. So let's take a Roth IRA account, right? So if I went to college for 4 years and I was grinding in college, in my mind, that would have felt like just funding the account. The grinding was funding the account.
Right.
Not going to college and grinding was the actual investing of that money into something that will grow.
Right.
So if that makes sense. So that's just how my mind felt and worked. And I'm very just like, I don't know, like I get scared, like Gary, like I'm scared of the alternative. So like I'm full force in this one. And that's why I'm excited for Quick Bites, because like I feel like my journey's been too easy. Like I want something that's challenging, and I want to like just take it by the balls and
Yep.
like just push. So
I like that.
yeah, that's always been my mindset. And it's funny because like Bree's, like we're complete opposites.
Yeah.
She like, she's totally in college and like, which
Writing
is
essays till
which is
10 p.m. at night.
completely
You're just like
awesome.
editing videos. You're like, I love editing videos, but there's the stress of her like, oh, it's due tonight, where you're like,
Yeah,
I
I'm
could finish it
due
today or
tonight.
tomorrow,
Yeah. And then she's like, my grade's in, and I'm like, and I'm so nervous. I'm like, okay, just look at it.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how. I
When
don't know.
did I get on that test?
I see so many people be unhappy because of the decisions they think they have to make, and I just never wanted to regret anything, to be honest. Like I always wanted to live.
And college is one of those things you could always go back to if you really felt like you needed it.
Exactly.
And I don't think you ever will now.
Although I do have a very strong belief of not having a plan B. I'm a very strong believer in that.
Yeah.
Because I believe in like how in your mindset and what you think.
And you can pivot. Like, it's not like okay, plan A, and then plan B is always on the side. Is like, I can bank on that if this doesn't work.
Because then that takes away from your
Drive towards
the first
direction.
thing.
Yep.
And law of attraction's huge for me.
Yeah.
Like I really have seen that and experienced that. And when I started working for Room, the marketing agency back in 2020, end of 2020, like the team lead, Sammy, we're pretty close friends still to this day, but he's like, wow, man. He's like, I really feel like the law of attraction is a big thing for you. He's like, because I just see it. He's like, I see it from the outside.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you're like, I don't know. And I think a big thing that people like to go to college for is like they're very stuck in. So there's this like saying thing that's kind of like, if you live in the future, you're anxious. If you live in the past, you're depressed. But it's like, if you just focus on now, like that's all you can do. I mean, that's really all you can do.
Day at a time. Like, tomorrow's not promised.
Exactly. So that's a big thing that
Don't spend all your money in one day though.
Yeah, that was always like that's always how I thought. I was like, I can't think about things that I can't control because it's not worth it.
Right.
So that's a lot of like, as an entrepreneur, there's lots of things you can't control and that could stress you out.
Yep. Especially being in commercial brokerage.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, this could go wrong, this could go wrong. But it's like, okay, but like what can go right? Like, I don't know, just focusing your energy on like good stuff.
Are they going to hear the phone ringing?
I mean, maybe a little bit. It won't be like
loud,
but
that's true because we got to talk into the mics.
But yeah, so that's kind of my spiel. I could go on for hours, but
I know this could be like a 2-hour podcast, but I think we should wrap it up now because I think we're encroaching our number. But 32. Today's pod
was good. That was a good combo.
It was really interesting.
You didn't roast me.
I didn't roast you past like the 3-minute mark.
But yeah, it's also different perspectives though. It's completely.
We'd love some insight if you guys listen to this podcast and are curious to talk college or not. Reach out
because it's completely subjective too.
It's totally subjective.
There's no right or wrong.
Yeah, there's no right or way. There's no. I mean, you look at the most successful people in the world. Half of them didn't finish college. They started and then they started something else. You know. I think college is going to go through an adjustment because of all the digital online learning that's available now, because I don't think you can charge as much for in-person classes versus online. I think there needs to be a delineation of that because it should be
online's a lot more.
It should be less.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like you're getting the right education.
I agree.
I don't know.
It's interesting.
And I don't know how college changes, you know.
I mean, yeah, I think it will change. I just don't know how. But it's also like college is such a cash cow for these universities.
Oh, dude,
you
can't disrupt the college system.
Yeah.
Just by like flicking a light switch. Like it will take 10 years to slowly.
Barely even.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, great pod.
Quick Bites Media.
See you next week.